Welcome back to the channel, guys. So I'm just going to be talking about the movie Troy, the movie that came out in 2004, directed by Wolfgang Peterson. Before I get into it, they don't really make movies like these nowadays. Nowadays, they just make remakes, superhero movies that are very visually pleasing, but they lack substance in a lot of times. I call it the fast food version of film, where again they just make stuff that on the surface level appears to be very exciting. It's action packed, it has great visuals. Films that touch upon the surface level of things, but they don't really get down to the stuff that actually matters, right? Sending a message, the themes of a film, and just the overall story plot and how it impacts the viewer. Films nowadays are just focused on, again, the superficial level of things, but Troy definitely isn't one of those films. Oh, by the way, if you take a look at most films that come out nowadays, they're again usually remakes or they're superhero films, and very rarely do you get films like we used to get from the past, right? The 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. And that's a shame because, art is true art, right? Quality art is very hard to see nowadays. I heard a great quote that states that art is a reflection of the culture that you currently live in. So if the culture is degraded, if it's, again, low quality, if it doesn't have logos, right? If it doesn't have truth and it's not connected to the higher virtues, then you're going to see that as a reflection in your art and in most areas of life, right? But that's another subject, and you can clearly see that, just by going outside and taking a look at the world around you. Not to say that everything is basically dumbed down or, artistically lacking, but it definitely seems to be that way. So Troy, again, it's not one of those films, and I'm going to be focusing on the theme of decision. The theme of decision from this film. That's one of the main messages that I got from this film. This is an instant classic, right? This is one of those films, again, that you could just go back to and you don't get tired of watching because it's brilliantly made, right? And again, above all, it has a message to tell. It has great themes that it wants to give out to the viewer. So again, I'm just going to be focusing on the theme of decision and how decisions made from weakness, from a place of lack, definitely have a much greater blowback than what you can anticipate. It impacts not only you, but the people around you. And I think this is perfectly exemplified through the character of Paris, right? So again, if you've seen the film, you know that Paris is the younger brother of the Prince of Troy, Hector. And, they're out here negotiating a peace treaty with Sparta, I believe, the king of Sparta. And Paris is, your stereotypical dunce, right? He is out here just having an affair with the princess of Sparta, Helen, the king of Sparta's wife, out here just being a total degenerate. And apparently, from a later scene in the film, it is made known that Paris has done this before, right? That this is not the first time that Paris has done this sort of behavior. So again, he's just making really stupid decisions, right? They're completely just messing up any chance of peace, right? If this was to be found out, and eventually it is, right? So as a result of his actions, as a result of his impulsive behavior, right, and just weakness, because at the end of the day, people do have that moral compass, or most of us do, and we know what's right and what's wrong, right? People that are saying that there is no right or wrong, that everything is subjective, that's complete BS. That you're trying to be programmed with through various movies, television shows, through the music you listen to, through these so-called prominent figures that are propped up in society. There's a lot of people saying, again, that there's no such thing as good and evil, but that's complete nonsense. But that's another topic, right? So again, you have these decisions being made by Paris. if you were to look at it objectively, this guy is supposed to be in a position of privilege, right? A position of privilege, but not only that, his position would have a lot of respect and responsibility attached to it. But again, this guy is just acting like a total degenerate, and he's doing the opposite of what he should be doing, right? Acting in a way similar to his older brother Hector, who is a very honorable man, right? He's a man of virtue. He's a man of family, and he does what's right at the end of the day. And because of Paris's actions, a lot of people end up suffering. Troy ends up going to war, right? I believe they had just gotten out of a war. Hector ends up losing his life. And eventually Troy falls because of the decisions of one man. At the moment, those decisions that he made may not have seemed to be such a big deal. But again, the blowback of decisions made from weakness or from a place of weakness or insecurity or, lack of virtue, the resulting consequences tend to be a lot of the time a lot bigger than what you expect. I'm sure you can probably relate to this in real life, where you made a decision that, wasn't very you didn't really think about it. You acted on maybe impulse or, weakness, and thinking that something was going to benefit you, or it looked like it was going to benefit you in the short term, in the long term scheme of things, ended up being a bad decision. I'll just give you a quick example. Eating fast food or eating food that's not healthy. How many people do you know are addicted to, fast food or the food that is not very nutritious or doesn't have any sort of benefit to, to a person's body? Fast food may taste delicious in the moment. It may be cheap in a lot of places, and it may be, it might give you the illusion that it's satisfying or that's, a high quality meal. But as I'm sure you can relate, right? After eating fast food, what are the consequences? You probably feel like crap for the rest of the day. Your energy levels are down. Your mood is probably down, and it probably carries over to the next day, right? It probably takes, some time to completely flush it out of your system. So this is just a small scale example, right? I'm sure you can probably relate to other examples as well. So again, when we're a kid, we look at the movie and we see Achilles as, the person that you want to be. Personally, again, when you're a kid and you watch this movie, you want to be like Achilles, right? Because he has everything down, right? He has the girl, he has, the physicality. The guy's just cool, calm, and collected, and you want to be like Achilles. But when you're older and you really watch the film and you appreciate the messages in it, you start to see that the character with the most virtue in this movie is Hector, right? When you're older, hopefully, if you've matured, if you've progressed, your point of view starts to change, right? And you start wanting to be more like Hector instead of Achilles, because Hector really took the responsibility from his brother, and it's such an unfair thing, and as it so happens in a lot of time in life, right? Other people end up suffering because of the decisions you make. So again, Hector ends up taking the blowback for what happens. He saves his brother on more than one occasion. On the duel that he had with the king of Sparta, he saves him. He ends up saving his life again because Achilles wanted to face his brother. Or he wanted to face, he wanted to face Hector, but, Hector being a man of honor and, virtue, he ends up, challenging Achilles, even though he knew probably that he wasn't going to make it out. So at the end of the day, Troy ends up, falling to the Greeks, all because of one man's decisions, you can say. Right? It's a complete 180 to where Troy was in the beginning of the film. Negotiating peace. It looked like they were going to go through a period of peace. There were no outside threats to Troy, I assume. And, maybe other nations would have been scheming things behind their backs, but who knows? But from the surface, it looked like, Troy was going to be in a peaceful state and everything was going to be fine. But because of the decisions of one person, a person in a position of power, because of the weakness of his decisions, a whole state ended up being eliminated, basically, right? So I guess the message that I got from this film is how decisions made from weakness can have a much larger impact than you can possibly imagine. So that doesn't mean to be walking around in a fearful state or in a constant state of paranoia, just nitpicking every little decision that you're gonna make in life. No, it just simply means to be mindful of where of what I guess state or place you're coming from when you're making a decision, right? A lot of the time, like I said, if a decision comes from a place of weakness, the results are not going to be very pretty for you. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for listening. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I just talk about stuff that fascinates me, try to give my 2 cents on it, whether it be a film like this, an anime, a TV show, anything that fascinates me in general. And from time to time, I also try to give life advice or share my experience, on a variety of topics that hopefully will help somebody out there. Thank you to all the viewers and subscribers to this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.